We got headlamps today. So today is going to be a video mostly about headlamps, but more specifically about a design flaw that I see in headlamps and in really other items as well that I would really like some attention paid to. I'm going to go ahead and go through and talk a little bit about each of these, and then I'm going to get to that flaw in a bit and talk about ways that you could possibly fix that. The first one that I want to talk about is this little guy right here. This is one of my favorite little headlamps. This is the Black Diamond Spotlight, spelled L-I-T-E because they're being cheeky. And it's great. It's very small. I keep this in the shop most of the time. This is actually my fiance's headlamp. There's a couple things I like about it right off the bat. One is that it has multiple buttons. It has a power button and then a mode cycle button where you can switch between modes, and I really enjoy that. I like dedicated buttons. I like more buttons and simpler user interfaces. I don't want to have to cycle through the same button for hold it for down for 3 seconds for one thing, double click it for one thing, click it real fast for one thing and real slow for another. I would much rather have an on switch and a cycle mode switch. They feel totally different. This one's a kind of a rectangle. This one is circular. You're not really going to mess up the two of those. We got new headlamps when we went to Ecuador, and I got this one. This is the larger Black Diamond Spot, and the Spotlight is just a little bit smaller. She liked the color of it as well. The only problem with it is that it cracked. You can see right on the front there. There's two big cracks, and I'm not sure how this happened because I don't know if this is Lexan or acrylic, but maybe this took a tumble, maybe this was in an outside pocket of a backpack, smacked against a rock somewhere, but it still is a perfectly functional light. The only problem is now it is not water resistant. So I've never had that happen to me on a headlamp. I've had that happen to me on some cheaper flashlights before, but something to be aware. If you're going to travel with this for long periods of time stowed away, like if you're going through a city where you're not going to be using it, you're not going into caves and doing stuff like that, throw it in like a glasses case or something that's got a little bit of padding to it, and that'll keep that from happening. But this one runs for about $26. This over here, this is the bigger Black Diamond Spot, and this one's got a lot more kind of modes and functions. And frankly, this one has the user interface that I like the least, which is one button that does different things based on how you press it. Yeah, I constantly forget what mode I'm in, what mode I'm going to, and I know there are people who use this headlamp every single day who have encyclopedic memory and can just at a touch remember exactly what's what and what's where. And while I'm never going to load my Grigory wrong, I am constantly forgetting what mode I'm in. And it is frustrating when you have it set on a map light mode and you go to read something right in front of your hand and suddenly you put it on its max lumen setting on a white piece of paper and it shines right back in you and gives you night blindness for the next 15 minutes, which I really don't enjoy. What I do like about this though is that it is dimming. If you turn it on and then hold it, it'll dim, and it's infinitely dimmable, and I love that. I like that it's not just a, max, medium, and low output. There's actually a dimming function on there, and I really enjoy that. It's also got kind of a soft outer encasement, makes it a little bit, these both do. This one seems a little bit more rugged. It's in my favorite color, Odie, olive drab. Almost everything I own is olive drab. And it's got a little bit more kind of robust encasement on the lens there. Instead of just one big lens on the front, it's got this kind of jewel bezel set in there, and it looks like a Cree LED in there. Let's go ahead and I have the lumens for this guy. So it looks like 300 lumens is the max, and again it is infinitely variable. You're able to get quite a bit of dimming in the different modes there, and it looks like all the modes dim. I'm not sure if the red light mode dims. See, now I don't even know. There we go. I'm not sure if this one's dimmable. Well, there we go. It's very easy to use, but because there are so many modes, I find myself cycling through them and forgetting what mode I'm in, or it'll reset after a certain amount of time. I feel like it goes back to regular mode. So I've only had it for a few months and I haven't quite gotten the hang of it yet, but I do like the light. This is my my normal backpacking light that I take with me. This other little cheapo here is actually not a bad headlamp. This is a Walmart brand Ozark Trail headlamp that we got actually with a set. It came with a flashlight and like a little multi-tool and some other stuff. We picked it up again before a little backpack trip. Somebody on the way to camping didn't have a headlamp, so we just stopped at Walmart, got some supplies, and bought a headlamp. Got bright, dim, hold it down for red. Real simple. It's one button, but since it doesn't have an actual dimming, you only have 3 options. It's pretty easy to remember those. All of these have a ratcheting mechanism of some kind. Some of them, though, are a little bit limited on their ratcheting. This guy actually does not go down a ton in comparison to this, which just goes all the way down. I mean, you could shine it right at your chin, and that's actually kind of nice depending on what you're working on. If you're working on something in your hands, you want that to go as far down as possible. That keeps you from craning your neck all the way forward. You can kind of just look down as opposed to having to tilt your head all the way down. So I actually appreciate that on this little cheapo. Lastly, we get to what was my favorite headlamp for the longest time. This is the Princeton Tech Remix. This was a great headlamp. Let me check what this one runs at again. Yeah, Princeton Tech on Amazon is selling for $49, which is a little bit steep. I got this for about $40 at a local store. You can get it for cheaper online. It looks like it's discounted at a few places, but I'm going to use Amazon for a lot of my links because they try and set the MSRP of a lot of things. It's going to be the place where most people are going to try to buy their gear through. Now, this was a great light when it was fully intact, and it wasn't until later that I discovered a really just kind of silly design flaw with this here. You'll notice that there has been a red rubber band around this entire time, and the light does work. It's got batteries in it. It's got multiple modes. You can switch between a big Cree LED or a cluster of smaller LEDs. It ratchets as well. And as opposed to having a mechanism that is separate from the light that ratchets, the mechanism is actually encased in here, and it ratchets on this little joint. And the reason that I have this rubber band is that the battery housing has the single flimsiest attachment point of any battery housing I have ever seen in all of my gear testing. Look at that. Look at how incredibly small that piece of plastic is. And this is under a decent amount of force. I mean, there was quite a bit of clamping force that it takes to overcome this little detent to get that closed. Not a lot of spring tension on here, but this is under tension from just the sheer mechanical friction of pushing it to overcome that detent, and then the batteries want to push out to it, which means that since this is under pressure, if you do drop this, even just a few feet onto something hard, that shockwave is very likely going to break this little hinge, or if you're opening it, with gloves or when you're just not thinking about it, it's very easy to snap that off. This is, I think, just regular nylon. I don't think it's fiber reinforced. It's not like a Zytel material. Yeah, no glass fibers in there. That's just a nylon or a polypropylene or something. It's kind of an inexcusable design flaw. What I did for the longest time is I actually got an inner tube from a bike and expanded that inner tube and shoved it over top of here, and that kept everything decently watertight, but I never trusted it. This actually came with a pretty good water resistance rating, but it just really let me down, and it happened while I was on a trip too, so I didn't have the tools to fix it at the time, so I had to use a regular handheld flashlight for anything that I needed a flashlight for, which luckily wasn't a lot. And I don't see this design being used in a ton of lights today. For instance, the Black Diamond lights use this sideways latching mechanism, which is quite sturdy. But you see that hinge? That's a proper hinge there. That hinge is not going to break. It's also not going to come apart. It's also not under a lot of pressure. So yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on a big design flaw that I really would like to see fade out of existence there I don't know who approved this. I don't know who decided that this was a sturdy enough part. And Princeton Tech makes a lot of headlamps and torches and stuff for the military. So why would you have something mil-spec that is going to break so easily and is going to come apart and is going to have like sand and dirt and grass in there? Because also, it doesn't work without this. It needs the conductivity of the steel in here to complete the circuit. So there's no way to, if you drop a piece, there's no way to tape over it, because now you've got a dead circuit. You've got an incomplete circuit. So if you are, going to buy any of these, I can recommend these. Highly recommend them. This is great, little cheapo. Any of the Ozark Trail ones that you get are going to be sturdy. I use this one just in the shop. I don't take this camping with me as much, but it's nice if I'm working close to my face, or if I'm grinding something on the belt sander and I really just need extra light there. But I can't recommend this one at all, just because that is going to break on you. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So I hope if you're in the market for a headlamp, this has kind of helped you out. Again, there's not a full review of each of these headlamps, more just kind of a cautionary tale on design. If you'd like a full review on any of these though, let me know, and I'll post one in a little bit. Take care everybody, thank you.